what is the importance of having a consistent one-on-one meeting with one of your team members?
Right. Yeah. I mean, one-on-ones are probably one of the most important things that you do as a leader. If for no other reason, and of course we're going to talk a little while about why it's important, right? But if for no other reason is it important, it's how you keep people, right? So we put so much energy into finding the right people, interviewing the right people, hiring the right people. Once we get in, make sure they're on the right seat on the bus. We put so much energy into that, but I think where most leaders really fall off is once we get people in the right place, we stop paying attention to them. And if you really want people to stick around, you got to pay attention to them. There's a place I worked years ago, came in as the new leader, and one of the things that I heard was, I've worked here for 2 years. I've never had a one-on-one with my leader. I couldn't believe it. I mean, and I actually think that's a little bit more common than we think.
Yeah. And it's one thing to just do it to check a box and say, hey, we had a one-on-one.
Right.
It's another thing to do it effectively to where both parties are looking forward to it. It adds value to both of their lives and their workplace. So how should these go? How often should they happen? Who's driving them? Who's it for? Give us the rundown of that.
Yeah. So this is a little bit of a tricky one because, who's the meeting for? And who's driving it, right? Is
it a trick question?
No, it's not a trick question, but because I think the answer is the unpopular answer, which is it depends, right? And I think what makes it depend, it has a lot to do with like the maturity of the person that you're having the one-on-one with, right? If you're having a one-on-one with somebody who's like really early in their career, you're probably going to have to drive most of the conversation, right? You're going to have to walk in a little bit more prepared. You're going to have to be like anticipating some of the needs that they have, and you're going to have to kind of walk them through, the critical thinking of, what's going on in your world right now. Yeah, I'm pretty lucky. The vast majority of my, direct reports are really, really senior folks. So it's kind of the opposite of that, which they're really driving the agenda. I'm here to serve them in the time that we've got together. So they come in and they've got a clear understanding of the things that they need to talk to me about. And usually the things that they're talking to me about are decisions that we need to make together versus decisions that they can make on their own. Mm-hmm. So it has a lot to do, I think, with the maturity of the actual person.
And then as far as how often, I know we do a lot of these weekly. Is that a in stone thing? Do you ever meet more than that? Do you ever meet less than that?
Unfortunately, it's another one of those it depends things, right? I think, and it also has a lot to do with maturity. It also has a lot to do with the amount of collaboration that you've got to do with the person. Like, so for example, one of my direct reports is my assistant. I meet with her really often, multiple times a week, because she and I have to be in lockstep about things on a day-by-day basis. So that's a very different situation than somebody that's, in the first year of their career or the first couple years of their career. In that situation, I'd really recommend you got to meet with them every week. You got to be there all the time. What I would say is I wouldn't really ever meet with anybody for less than a couple of hours a month. So, when I do my one-on-one with my leader here, it's somewhere usually in the neighborhood. We'll have one meeting a month for 2 hours. But I'm a pretty self-navigating guy, right? So I think it has a lot to do with the maturity of the person that you're working with.
So let's get into what happens during the one-on-one meeting. What kind of things should you be talking about to make it effective? Because let's say you have a half hour and you want to make sure we cover all the bases and be effective without being a robot and just check boxes.
Right. So, I think one of the things that's helpful is to say what it is and what it isn't when you have a one-on-one meeting. So I think what it is that you're trying to coach the stressors that somebody is experiencing. And what I mean by that is like, what are the relationships that they've got in their world, that are either going well or a challenge. What are the key decisions that they need to be making? Not the decisions they can make on their own, but what are the decisions that they need help with? The critical thinking that they need to walk through. And I think the last piece of that, the stressors is what are the key areas that they need to be growing? Particularly the areas where they're not aware that they need to grow. So I think you've got to be actively coaching, actively covering in the one-on-ones, like the stressors that a person goes through. What a one-on-one isn't, in my opinion, is a status meeting. I don't think the one-on-one is the right venue or the right opportunity to sit down with somebody and say, what are all the things that you're working on? What are the deadlines? How are you working against those deadlines? Those are conversations that you want to have with people, But I think a one-on-one needs to foster more relationship.
It needs to go deeper than just the external.
Right.
Again, the checking the box of, all right, we're on track. Great.
Right.
Go back to work.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of a one-on-one, you want people to feel like, they've been seen and heard and understood, and that there's actually a relationship going on between you and them.